welcome our retirees, of course, and their families that are present, and any other community member that is here today. Thank you for your attendance to this afternoon's board meeting. I think it sets a positive tone, a good start to our meeting. So I will now call the meeting to order. It is now 6 o'clock. I call this meeting of the La Feria Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members are present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. Please stand.
If you'll please bow your heads for prayer. Heavenly Father, we praise you for your goodness and generosity. We trust you for your faithful preserving us through good times and bad. We serve you with all that we have. We glorify you in our plans and activities. We speak to you, to others, in response to your great love for us. Lord, we thank you for the many successes La Feria has had over the years and many more to come. We thank you for the amazing teachers, principals, staff, and the beautiful community that we have here. Everyone in this district is amazing, and we thank you for the family atmosphere that we do have here. Please be with those less fortunate in our community at this time of the year, those not feeling well, and those who have lost loved ones. Help us to live in harmony with each other, that together we may, with one voice, glorify Jesus Christ. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes for the 17th of November?
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for November 14th, 17th, and 29th.
We have a motion by Mrs. Johnson. Do I have a second? Second. Johnson has a motion. Mrs. Martinez a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. At this time now, we will honor our retirees. But before we do that, excuse me, I know we have 4 people that are retiring, correct? First of all, I'd like to thank the ones that are present here for your years of service. You all have touched the lives of the students, whether it's as a bus driver capacity, through maintenance, or as a teacher. So we definitely thank you for your dedication, for your hard work. I'm not quite sure what else I can say. So thank you so much for everything you did throughout your career here in La Feria ISD.
And Ms. Ramos is going to, if you'll go to the front, Ms. Ramos.
Good evening, Board President, school board members, Torres. We're here tonight to recognize 4 retirees. 2 of them were not able to attend, but we do have one teacher, Mr. Howard McNutt III. He has been a special education teacher and a math teacher at La Feria ISD. He began teaching at La Feria ISD starting the year 2013 for a total of 9 years here with La Feria ISD.
Ms. Ramos is going to take your picture.
Thank you.
One, two, three. Thank you. So we'll stand right over there. We're going to take a group picture in just a moment.
Next, we have Hugo Bernal. He's been a bus driver under the maintenance department. He's been working at La Feria ISD since the year 2005 for a total of 17 years. He's been driving our students to and from home every day, driving our students to UIL meets, and any other activities, and always willing, ready to serve us, serve our students.
If I can get the rest of the board to come forward, and Mr. McNutt, if you can join us again, we'll take a group.
Come on, this time. Watch your feet.
Okay, ready guys? 1, 2, 3. 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I want a picture of Mr. Guerra, sir, and, Ugo, hold on. I'm sorry. A picture of Mr. Guerra and,
Yeah, fine.
she was being honored, you're being honored.
1, 2, 3.
Your face, mine was looking this way.
Mrs. Ramos, do we have anybody?
No, no.
You don't have any public comment?
No, no public. You can wait till the
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
No one has signed up for public comment. The next item on the agenda is a student discipline appeal under sections 55.802 and 55.8021 of the Texas Open Meetings Act. The hearing will be conducted in closed session unless the student's parent requests it in writing, but the hearings be held in open session. Did the student's parent request a public hearing in writing? And if so, on what date was the written request received by the district?
No, Madam President, the parent did not request a public hearing in open session.
Thank you, ma'am. The board will now adjourn into closed session to hear their presentations of the parties. The time is now 6:08 p.m.
As of right now.
It is now 7:34 p.m. We are now convened to open session. Is there a motion in regard to the student discipline appeal?
Madam President, I move that we uphold the decision that Raylene Nicole Pollock committed an expellable offense, that she be expelled for the period of time determined by the hearing officer, and that the superintendent issue a final order confirming the expulsion of Raylene Nicole Pollock pursuant to applicable state law and board policy.
Thank you, Mrs. Johnson. We have a motion by Mrs. Johnson. Do we have a second? Mr. Zambrano? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The board's decision is as follows, 7-0 in favor of the expulsion. The parties will be promptly advised in writing of the decision Thank you for your cooperation and courtesy in this matter. Are there any personnel matters?
Yes, Madam President. I move that we offer a one-year probationary contract pending completion of required documentation to the following. Stephanie King. 1-year probationary contract pending.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mrs. Johnson. Do we have a second? Second. Mrs. Martinez. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an information item, and it is the Feria ISD strategic plan update.
Good evening, Board. Tonight I want to review the strategic plan developed for school year 2020. This plan will be updated twice a year, once in the fall and one time in the spring. As you can see, there are objectives, and under each objective, there are strategies. There are timelines of when each action plan or action step should be addressed. For example, strategy number 1, the La Feria ISD will ensure the effective communication utilizing technology occurs between campuses and parents, community. There were 4 action steps. We completed 3 out of the 4. We are continuing to build on culture for building positive relationship with all stakeholders. We continue with the town hall meetings, and we are surveying our staff. We also have a communication coordinator that ensures that our website and social media is also updated to, with current information of the districts, current information regarding the district. Strategy 2 is La Feria ISD will update technology infrastructure in the classroom and integrating technology in instruction. Of there, we've completed 2 of the 4. Okay. Objective 2, La Feria will La Feria will develop partnerships to ensure the students are provided with post-secondary education tools that will benefit them currently and after graduation. As of now, we have 1 out of 6, but that doesn't mean that we're not working toward them. We're building up so that we can meet that timeline, okay? And I'm sure that by spring, you'll start seeing what's complete.
We will be presenting on the strategic plan twice a year. And so you'll get it now, and then before the end of the year, to see what we have accomplished, we'll present at the end of the year as well.
Okay. La Feria ISD will provide post-secondary supports to current and former La Feria ISD students. We're gonna continue working on that one, as well as La Feria will expand AP dual enrollment CT courses in the La Feria ISD, 1 out of 2. We are offering certifications based upon labor market demands. So we're looking at the classes that we're offering, and some are gonna be retired and some are sunsetting. In other words, those are already close to expiring. Strategy 4, La Feria ISD will provide opportunities for students to gain knowledge of career pathways and universities that will match up with those chosen careers, 1 out of 2. We are looking at our program studies at both the beginning of the year and end of the year. Strategy, objective 3, strategy 1, La Feria will establish and maintain a partnership with local law enforcement in order to provide for a safe school environment. I believe we have 3 out of 4 on that one. Oh, I'm sorry, we have, on the next one, we have 3 out of 4 where we're also providing the social and emotional training. So we are working on school safety, on the social and emotional, and also on strategy 4, we're gonna continue to improve the safety measures of the school district. And there you can see that we have done 4 out of the 4. Okay, so this is a plan that we are always monitoring.
And this plan was developed,
And
2020.
2020, and it ends in 2025.
so we kind of put this together about last August.
And no, in 2020. This is 2022, almost
Oh,
2023.
yeah, then.
About 2.5 years ago. We're
Oh,
about
okay.
halfway through right now.
Okay.
Okay. Any questions on this? I'm sure that when we come back in the spring, we'll have more detailed information.
And when we put it together also, with the community, we did a 5-year plan and we put dates that we thought would be appropriate at that time, and we've had to adjust that. Some we got things done earlier, like the safety, some of those things we didn't have until 2024, but because of everything that has occurred, those kind of got pushed up a little bit. So we've adjusted the timeline, but our goal is by the end of 2025 to get everything that's on that plan completed.
The next information item is Superintendent Performance Goal 1, Academic Achievement.
Yes, good evening again, Board President, Board members. Tonight, we're looking at the Superintendent Performance Goal 1 that states that we will address the academic needs and reading, math, science, and social studies in order to show student achievement throughout the fall semester. And so, attached you will have our benchmark, it's not a benchmark, our CBA number 1 and CBA number 2. The difference between a CBA and a benchmark is CBA only covers the TEKS that particular 6 weeks. So you will see the first 6 weeks test, for example, for reading, and then the second 6 weeks test. This is not, the things that are covered the first 6 weeks are completely different than the things that are covered the second 6 weeks. It is not cumulative. What we give right now that they're currently testing on, and we'll give you those results in January, are benchmark scores. And we will compare those benchmark scores to how we were doing last year. Now, another big change is that now we are doing STAR 2.0. And so there's a lot of changes with STAR 2.0. Writing starts at 3rd grade and is tested all the way up. It used to only be tested at 4th, 7th grade in high school. So that's a big adjustment. Also the way the questions are, and we've kind of discussed that a little bit. So for example, on student performance, we saw that the students did better on the second 6 weeks TEKS and reading overall than they did the first 6 weeks. When we kind of looked, we highlighted, even in the meets and masters. So we do follow that. We're focusing on writing, short answer, and extended responses. A big change also is our students in 3rd and 4th grade must not only answer a short answer item, but they must state evidence for their answer. And that's a big change for elementary students. And so that's something that we're looking at. We're also in the spring going to be reviewing strategies with teachers. We had strategies for STAR, but now STAR 2.0, we're having to redo that quite a bit. So the C&I department is working with our teachers to go over those strategies, and they'll be doing that in the spring. If you look at math, and you look at the TEKS in math, it seems like the second, for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, the second 6 weeks TEKS they did better on than the first 6 weeks, but it was opposite of that for our elementary. And so again, we're looking at our benchmarks, plan of action. We have a meeting tomorrow afternoon with principals. We have a lot of the data. Monday, students don't come to school, just our teachers, and their whole goal for Monday is to look at the benchmark scores and have a plan of action, academies, how are we going to target our bilingual, our GT, our special ed, what are we going to do for the spring? So we will be discussing, the only item that we're discussing tomorrow afternoon in the principals meeting is instruction and the benchmarks and what we're going to do on Monday. And we'll have a checklist for them to work on. If you look at science, you'll see again that it seemed like they did better on the second 6 weeks than they did the first 6 weeks TEKS. So when we look at that and we looked at, for example, if they understood the water cycle, but they didn't do very well on the water cycle, then we'll have to spiral some of that in throughout the spring. And I'm saying water cycle because that's the simplest thing that I can talk about. But anything that we see that they didn't do well, they may understand it, but not the way it's tested. And so we're really having to adjust a lot because they understand the TEK, but the way it's tested in that level is something that our teachers are having to work with their students on. If you go on to the social studies slide, Region 1 came in and trained and had a blitz right before our benchmark. And so they have done that, and we're getting ready to get our benchmark results back and see how effective that was and what else we need to do. And then the last one is, the last couple of slides are our sub-pops, bilingual special ed, economically disadvantaged GT. And so we're trying to make comparisons, and we're looking at each individual teacher as well. And so we get reports for every campus and every teacher. And so if Mr. Flores is doing a lot better than Mrs. Flores, then we have that discussion of do they have the same population in his class as I do? What are some strategies he's doing, and those type of things. So again, a big adjustment. C&I has talked a lot about the 2.0 is very different. Everything is online, but we'll continue to work on that. And then in January, I'll bring you scores that show the comparison between benchmark to see where we are. Any questions about the scores or academic progress at this time?
Thank you, Mrs.
Thank you, ma'am.
Flores. The next item is Superintendent Performance Goal 3, current engagement.
Thank you. Two of the things that, dealing with the superintendent performance goals, is that we were going to discuss our Technology Tuesdays. We had those in the fall, the first Tuesday of every month. And then we also had some of our early literacy. So the first item is our Technology Tuesday, and we had meetings, some things that we're going to do, and they're being very successful with numbers. Technology Tuesday was not one of those. And so I'm okay with the fact that I tried something and it didn't work. We had an early literacy, and there were tons of parents, and I told Mr. De Leon, all we had to do is tell them it was literacy and for toddlers, and then you could have done technology, and we could have, but no. But we did things on Skyward, you can see security for the family, and we did have, the first session we had 5 families and then another 33 people. But then we had 8 families and 2 families. So we did meet the needs of some, but what we're going to do is regroup and think of a different way that we could do technology. Because this particular method of Technology Tuesday didn't work out as well as we wanted it to. But we did want to report, we did have it, and we did meet the needs of some of the families that came. But to train families for technology, we will look at that and see what else we can do. However, if you look at the early literacy initiative, this one is something that I talked to Mrs. Laredo about. We wanted to really focus on our 2 through 5-year-old students that aren't in school yet, 2 through 4-year-olds. Not only start giving them some instructional materials, but forming those relationships with parents. At the last training that we had in December, we even passed out when we're going to have registration for a pre-K4 and our kindergarten, so they know when that is coming up. So we passed out, we distributed instructional materials. We had 28 parents, 15, 40, and 44. Very successful with our little ones. And then we had, in December, when we had last week when we had the toddler literacy night, the room was packed and the kids had fun. And so one of the centers was they had the alphabet A through Z. They had to get the Play-Doh. They had to outline the letter. But when they finished, they got to take that home with them. So it wasn't just do and go on. Every center that they went to, they got to take those materials home with them. And we had a lot of parent volunteers that came in and helped Mrs. Laredo put those materials together. So we felt that was very successful in the fall. Any questions about those 2 initiatives?
For the technology, has administration considered doing a virtual seminar, webinars, or anything like that, since it's technology, to
And
reach those
Yes.
working? You'll still have that engagement, but a little bit more of the virtual
We
aspect
can
of it?
definitely try that in the spring. We're going to regroup and talk about what we want to do in the spring. So maybe more people would be from their home willing to get on and get that same type of training. So we'll try that in the spring, and see if that works, and we can touch a few more families than we are at this point. Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Flores. We are now on the consent agenda. There are 5 items on the consent agenda. Do I have a motion that we approve the consent agenda? Mr. Zambrano?
I second.
We have a motion by Mr. Zambrano, a second by Mrs. Johnson. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. consider and possible action. The first item to consider and take possible action on is discussion and consideration to approve the district standing committees. The
May I
first-
share a few things?
Sure.
real quick? So out of the committees, we want to do a few things that are a little bit different. Our educational instructional committee, besides just going to DPCs, these will be the board members that we gather when we're talking about early college, when we're talking about anything that deals with instruction, and then getting that together. We're recommending to not have a technology committee anymore, but that committee we can discuss technology with our educational instructional committee, and instead have a safety committee, because we are working on that. So that's one change. And then our long-range facility committee, we're recommending to change that to a planning committee, because we want to discuss a lot more than just facilities, but we want to discuss things like maybe regrouping what our elementaries look like, just a lot of long-range planning. So just a little bit of background on what that might look like. Thank you, ma'am.
The first committee is the Education Instruction Committee. Who would like to serve?
I would like to serve.
Mrs. Martinez? Anyone else?
I would like to serve, continue serving on that.
Mrs. Casas? And an alternate?
I'll stay the alternate.
Mr. Zambrano will be alternate. The second committee is the Audit and Finance Committee. Who would like to serve?
I'd like to stay on that committee.
Mrs. Casas, I would like to serve in that committee too.
I'd like to stay on that committee.
Thank you, Mr. Briones. So it's Mrs. Casas, myself, and Mr. Briones. The third committee is the District Long Range Committee. Who would like to serve?
I would.
Mrs. Johnson?
I would like to serve.
I'll stay.
Who's that? Oh, Ms. Montalvo, okay. And you're the alternate, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mrs. Johnson, Ms. Montalvo, and Mrs. Martinez is the alternate. The fourth committee is the Safety Committee. Who would like to serve?
I'll
I
get on
would.
that one.
I'd like to stay on.
Yeah, I'd want to stay on, and Ruben.
Okay, okay. So
I can be the alternate.
Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Zambrano, and I think you raised your hand right now?
Yes.
Okay, and Mrs. Montalvo would like to serve. Okay, very good. Do I have a motion that we approve the district standing committees?
So moved.
Mrs. Casas has motion, Mrs. Martinez has second motion. It has been moved and seconded to approve the district standing committees. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The second item is the discussion and consideration to approve an update to early childhood and college career and military readiness district goal plans.
Good evening, Madam President Castillo, Superintendent Mrs. Torres, and members of the board. This evening, I'll be going over what we call our House Bill 3. As a district, we are required to provide staff development, set specific goals for our district, and then review them with you. The other requirement is that we must have an annual report, and that we must post this in our district website and our campus website. So we're gonna go ahead and begin with our early childhood literacy one. The percent of third grade students, or the goal is for our third grade students to score at meets grade level, at or above on the STAR reading. Our goal was to be at a 60%. So in 2020, we did not have data due to COVID. The 2021 score was 23, and then our 2022 data is at a 46. So our goal is to be at 60% by June of 2024. Right now, we are at 46%. On the next page, we have the targets that have been set up for the specific sub-pops. The 22 targets are set there. We have the 22 data. We did not meet them, but we are close. The area that we need to address and look is, of course, our emergent bilingual students. We are at a 26, the target was a 45. There was not a target set for our special ed students, but the data shows that we were at a 29 for the year of 2022.
So our lowest was that, bilingual?
Yes, ma'am.
¿Verdad?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And again, these specific goals doesn't look at, accomplished, but it looks at the meets. How many, because that's what they consider to be on grade level. And so that, it looks at the meets. So you might have had more that quote passed, but they're looking at the meets. And we've had that discussion before, how they need to be at that meets level.
Yeah, all students need to be at
Yes.
the meets.
On our next slide, we're going to look at the literacy progress measure. Down the center, you're going to see the goal for kinder, first and second, and this is in the area of reading. So by 2024, we want our kinders to be scoring at a 90%. That is our target. When we tested our kinder students last year using the end of year SAVAS, that is what our teachers used. That assessment, our students scored at an 88%. In first grade, also using the end of year SAVAS, our target was our target is 54. Our first grade students scored at a 63. And then our second grade students, the target was 64, and they are currently, or last year, they were at a 75. And again, this is using the end of the year SAVAS assessment. We made some changes because we do not have the iStation. When this was developed, we were using the iStation scores as part of this data. We have not been using iStation for the last 2 years, so that's why we are transitioning to SAVAS, because that is currently what we are doing and using with our students in these grade levels. On the next one, we have the Early Childhood Math Board outcome. The percent of third grade students that score meets grade level or above on the STAR Math will increase from 53 to 63% by June of 24. So in 2020, again, no data due to COVID. In 2021, we were at 16%. Again, that's meets or better. And then 2022, 39. So we did improve the 2022 school year
But
in the
our
area
goal
of
was,
math.
what was our goal?
Our goal is 63.
By 2024.
For 2 more years.
And
But
now, one of the
20,
things that's going to kind of be a kink into the whole system is they're changing it to a 2.0. So, not only, you know, when House Bill 3 came out, we had 5 years to get to a goal, but in the meantime, we had the pandemic, and now we're gonna have a new test. So we're having to work through that because 60% is still our goal.
So if we continue, we went up at 13, how much did we go?
23.
13. We went up 13 from 21 to 22.
23.
20.
20, well, I'm looking at 22,
Right, we went from 16 to 39.
which is what, 13?
23.
23.
23 points. Okay, so if we do 23, we should meet our goal of 60 by,
2024. Yes, ma'am.
okay, we continue the same pace.
If we
Yes,
continue
ma'am.
improving and growing, yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
On the next page, you'll see the closing the gaps for those student groups. Again, the targets were set for us and the sub-pops. And again, this is math. We did not meet the target with our 2022 data in the area of math.
Except for our special ed.
Except for special ed, I apologize. I
Yes,
apologize.
yes,
sir.
sir.
On the next slide, we have the math progress measure. It says reading. I do apologize. It should say math. The targets were set for kinder first and second. The target for kinder is 98, the 22 data. Using the end of the year Prolize math, our kinder students scored at 86% passing. For first grade, the target was 86, and our students scored an 85. In second grade, the target is 60, and our students are currently scoring a 49. Again, those are the targets that we want our students to meet in the area of math by 2024, and the 22 data shows that we're there, we're getting.
Any questions of Mr. Flores? Do I have a motion that we approve?
There's
that?
But he
some
still
more.
has the
There's
CCMR.
some more.
Oh, hello, that's right, I was already.
That's okay. There'll be questions here. All right, the next one is the CCMR. Again, just a reminder, CCMR scores, if we're looking at 2019-2020, it's based on data from 2018-2019. It's from the previous school year. And again, if we're looking at the 2020-2021 school year, it's based from 2019 and 2020. The first progress measure that we're going to be looking at is TSIA, and that's, of course, that's the test that we give our students to see if they are ready for college. Before I explain there, let me just go back and recap. For 2020, our overall CCMR score, and it's not there, but the overall score in 2020 was a 55. In 2021, the overall score was a 53. met with Mrs. Zubieta, and for 2022, the projected score, again, it's projection, it's either a high 70 or a low 80. So we're already gonna show improvement there, but we don't have that data just yet.
The way
So-
that the House Bill 3, they want to know what's your percentage goal for TSI? What's your percentage goal for dual enrollment and for your certifications? They break it up for this particular document. But I know that you're interested in overall, that's on our taper report and on our accountability. So that's why Mr. Flores said we were at the 50 and then went down a little bit. But now we should be at the high 70s, low 80s for last year's students.
Last year's.
And now this year's students, we're still working on.
So for last year's students, we're looking at, what did you say, high seventy?
A high 70 to low 80 right now.
Which we've already met the goal if that happens, correct?
Yes, ma'am,
I was gonna say that, so that would meet the goal for the.
for the 2022 school year.
Right.
Yes, ma'am. I didn't read the goal, I apologize for that.
I do have a question, sir. So the 2018, that was pre-pandemic, right?
2018?
2018.
Yes, that was
And
pre-pandemic.
the CCMR, what was that?
I don't have that one score. I don't have that score, but based on these targets, it was probably based on the 2018, 2019 school year. So it was probably around that area too then, as far as, but I can get you the
No, no,
2018.
But this data is based off, the 2018 and 2019, right?
See,
Yes,
those students.
yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am, sorry.
And that was at 55.
Pre-pandemic.
Yes, 55, the order was 55, 53, and now we're looking at a 70 to 80 based on the 22 class, the graduating class of 22.
The 21-22 school year, it should be the high 70s, low 80s.
So, this year, we have, we're adding, in the categories, what are we adding more? Is it the AP or the dual enrollment, or the CTE courses, which is the greater?
When we look at the greater one then, I have that here for you. The greater one is TSIA. TSIA is the greatest one, followed by IDC, and then followed by dual enrollment. In that order, in that specific order, that is where our students are gaining the points. As far as the actual score for 2022, in talking to Ms. Lubieta as well, we're looking at probably the same or slightly higher. So right, the class of 2021 scored at a 43.5, that should be higher as well in the area of TSI, the TSIA. I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask Ms. Torres or Mr. Flores. So, let's say when the class finished, the one that graduated in 2021, we're gonna graduate in 23, so it was 22.
We're gonna get the data for 2022.
So we already know what our.
You
what our
actually,
scores.
and tell me if I'm wrong, when they graduate, our seniors, the 22 graduating in May, if I'm correct, you actually have until December
Yes, that is correct.
to get in, for any other students that happen to get the TSI and get other points. So that's why we don't have the exact yet, because at the end of this month, that's when they close it off for last year's
For
seniors.
last year.
So that's why we say it's approximately, because there could be seniors, there could be students that passed a certification after they graduated, or did something like that, that we're still gonna get the points. So we have our staff that follow up on the students that didn't get the points to see if we can get any other points. So that's why we don't quite know where we are until the end of this month.
Yes, okay.
And so then down below, you have closing the gap student groups, the yearly targets. Those targets were set for us, and that's our scores for the 2021. And then, again, that is just based on TSIA only. That's not the overall score, that's just TSIA and how they did on that assessment. On the next one, the CCMR progress measure number 2, this is just the industry-based certifications. Some of the certifications that we have is law, we have health science, those two are the most popular one. We have computer-based and ag, and then just today, Ms. Zubieta met with one of the local agencies here, SCI, in regards to welding. So that is something new that is coming up as well.
What is that?
Welding?
No,
Oh, sorry.
SCI, you said met with.
That is the acronym for that business that's there, that's located right here on the expressway.
Kansas City.
I thought it was Southern Careers Institute, but I'm not too sure, it's not, it's
No.
not that.
It's the one that's here.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, it's the one that's along the expressway.
I highly, I really, I'm impressed, according to, the information I got, that they, when they get their certificate, it's entry-level certificate.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, good.
So again, the ones that we have the most, or students who participating the most on law and health science, again, our overall score in 2020 was a 55. The actual score there for us was a 23.9, and the goal was a 28.6. Year 2021, we were at an 8.4, and the goal was 31.6. The overall score for CCMR that year was a 53. That was the year that we did have some errors. And in order to correct, what we did to correct that is we did hire 2 consultants to come in. They've trained our PEAMS clerk. That was one of the things that we did. Sessions with Ms. Ubieta, sessions with their counselors as well, to make sure that we are coding correctly. That was an error that happened that school year. Glad to say that for 2022, we are looking at, again, our overall score should be a high 70 or high 80. Sat with Ms. Zubieta again, and we're looking at a high 80 or high 90 for the actual score.
Wow.
So we're looking, jumping from an 8.4 to an 80, high 80, low 90, in that area of the industry-based certification. Again, some of the things that we did was, or that Ms. Zubieta did was, the 2 consultants, they have monthly meetings. Just last week, was it last week? I can't remember what week we're in anymore. Just last week, Ms. Bento, our special ed director, met with our counselors to make sure that our students are on target, that their plans show what they need to be having in order so that we can maintain and get those points for those students as well.
Under whose responsibility does that fall under, under the principal?
Which,
The CCMR make sure that all the dots are, all the i's are dotted and that's.
we, Yes.
It's everyone.
we talked about this. You basically have your CTE director that checks to make sure. You have your counselors that check, and overall, all of that goes together with the principal, and they check as well. So it's a lot of eyes, because I may miss something, you may miss
Yes.
something, so everybody's looking at that, a check and balance.
I think that will help us to not leave a gap anywhere.
And so then down below you have the targets for the subgroups. Again, we know what happened in 2021. We've addressed that with the consultants and the monthly meetings that are taking place in order so that doesn't happen again. That's 2021. CCMR progress measure number 3. This is just the dual course credits. These are just the seniors. So again, just to review, overall CCMR score in 2020 was a 55. 2021 53, and we are projecting a 70 or 80 for the 2022 school year. The goals are listed there. I don't have a percentage for you. Just in my head, I can try. The actual, we have about 57 students that should fall under the dual course, so we're probably looking at a mathematician here, 23-24% there as well.
We have added 3 dual enrollment courses this school year. I put it in, I can't remember, but it was in a board weekly update. But we have added some dual, and as we continue with the early college high school, we'll be adding additional ones.
So going back to 2020, we had 40 students graduate with dual course credit, then we went to 44, and right now we're looking at 57 students with this school year. But this group of students, again, the early college high school is going to be a strategy that's going to help us attain more as well.
And I did share with, I can't remember which board member, but I spoke to Ms. Chamberlain, and not this spring, but our current juniors, even though we are just getting into the early college, by next spring, we're looking at graduating between 8 and 10 early college students, even before we are really designated, just because they've started the dual 2 degree. And so, and then it will just go up from there, increase from there.
So one of the other things that we needed to review with you, which we've already done, is basically go over the staff development. I thought that I had added the slide, it didn't. So here it is. We have shared these with
And
you.
the check and balance, that was me to check and balance, and I didn't do my job. Thank you, sir.
So it isn't in there.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll just recycle this for you.
Yes, sir.
We're really trying to get better with paper, but it's not working.
Are there any questions?
No, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do I have a motion that we approve the update to early childhood and college career and military readiness district goal plans?
I make a motion.
Mrs. Johnson has moved, Mrs. Martinez has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Next is a discussion and consideration to approve the proposed revision to policy COB local.
This revision is for La Feria ISD. We're now under a new provision called CEP, which is the Community Eligibility Provision, which basically means that La Feria ISD students will continue with their free meals, but now the district will get the 100% reimbursement of the free reimbursement. That means slightly more money for our child nutrition program. Before, we were under the free and reduced price meals, so we would get a reimbursement based on the eligibility when they would fill out those applications, and that's what they were used for reimbursement. But now, with this new revision, we would be getting 100% of reimbursement on the free.
Any questions of Mrs. Ramos?
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Do I have a motion that we approve the proposed revision to policy COB local?
So,
Mrs. Montalvo has moved. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Briones, it has been moved and seconded to approve the revision to policy COB local. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next is discussion, the next item is discussion and consideration to request for proposals for E-rate 26.
Yes, we are asking for approval to go, request for proposals for E-rate 26. This E-rate would focus on the two remaining campuses of, which is would be CEVL and Sam Houston. We're looking at updating our switches and uninterrupted power supplies, the UPS, also throughout the district. These are the last two campuses of the E-rate cycle for the 5 years.
Any questions of Ms. Ramos? Do I have a motion that we approve to request for proposals for E-rate 26?
So,
Mr. Briones? Second. The second. Mrs. Montalvo? It has been moved and seconded to approve to seek proposals for E-rate 26. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The next item is discussion and consideration to request for proposals for Lions Stadium scoreboard.
Or motion that we approve it.
we did have a motion already.
Go ahead, sir.
Good evening, Mr. President, Mrs. Torres, board members, like Mr. Zambrano said. That's it.
We're good.
Obviously, this has been a topic for several years already. So we're requesting that the board approve that we go out for proposals. We did have a couple of consultants that I talked to as far as specs, because it's not just the scoreboard that we would have to go out for proposals. This would be an RFP, meaning that we provide the specs so that when different companies bid on it, everybody's bidding on the exact same thing. It's not a sealed proposal, so that means when they do submit them, we can talk to them about it to see if they have any questions on it. But again, it's not just the scoreboard, since it would be a digital scoreboard. There's a lot of other components that go into it. With it goes also a sound system, obviously, that would go in with it. It would also be, part of the proposal is to go ahead and remove the current existing scoreboard. As you guys may know, I think one time we were coming back from one of the luncheons and we were doing a pop quiz of how long has that scoreboard been there, right? And I think it's been there since before I was born. Just so we know, that's in the 80s. So, and again, the hardest part is that, some of these parts are very hard to get. I think we've had the same vendor because I think he's the only one that's able to get us some parts. Sometimes it's very hard because he comes all the way from Rio Grande City. What we're afraid of is that one of these days, if it fully gives out, not just for the football games, but for our soccer games, everything would have to be moved away from home games. The scoreboard, besides athletics, I think it serves a much larger purpose for our community events, now that we're trying to have that community engagement. And, you know, we've been using the stadium, for example, the diabetes walk. These are perfect things, the graduation, that we would be able to use this, have video to show, you know, to be able to showcase our students and our staff. So, having said all that, I put some of the basic specs, which is the size of the board and the billboards. I think it would also give us a good, great opportunity to be able to advertise with our local vendors and maybe even some outside vendors. And in the long run, you know, it would be able to pay off itself, you know, based on these advertising that we would be able to have.
But currently, how would we pay for it, sir?
Yes, so this is, again, as you all know, when we did the audit, we put about $1.1 million in the fund balance, right? So when we did this, I ran the numbers, because not just for the first reading, but just, you know, financially, we would still be at a good place. So remember, we put $1.1 million in the fund balance. That brought us up from like around 88 days of cash reserve to about 125, which is good. To get the full 10 points, we have to be at 90. So I took all that into consideration. I ran some numbers. When we brought the electrical gates, which I think it was like 2 or 3 board meetings ago, that was almost $500,000. That was $450,000. $100,000 was gonna come out of a grant. The other $350,000, we said that it was gonna come out of our fund balance, right? So I thought, okay, what we just put in there, we can take some from there. The remaining amount, it is an expensive project. We do estimate it to be anywhere between $600,000 to $800,000. So this, along with the electric gates, would kind of be used from exactly what we put in last year. Which again, last year was a huge accomplishment, because at one point we thought, you know, we might be in the red. So I ran the numbers. I said, okay, you know what, we're gonna take back $1 million, 1.1 back from the fund balance. Another big factor was, remember that last year, our expenditures didn't include maintenance and transportation salaries. That's almost another $1 million. So I took that into consideration, and I ran my numbers, and we would still be like around 106, 107 days on cash. So, you know, for reporting purposes, I felt okay with it. And then again, it's just something that both the electric gates and the scoreboard, you know, it's something that'll be there for a long time. Any particular questions on the specs or on the funding?
A question was asked about the top, and there would be lighting behind those.
Yes, so I'll talk a little bit briefly about it. So it's all digital. The main screen, which is 16 feet tall by 36 feet wide. Now, right below it, the scoreboard, it is digital. However, that would be handled separately, meaning that another thing that we also would have to consider, you know, this, just to operate the video scoreboard, is a 2 to 3 man job. The scoreboard, the actual score, you know, the scoring right there, it would still be handled by a clock operator. That would remain the same. So for example, where the game's at, you know, where JoJo's at, it would still be him and the clock operator. But for the actual images, video and all that, we would have to get a 2 to 3 man team. So we would probably also have to include as part of the specs, or not part of the specs, but in addition, part of the project is we have to get a portable building, where we've talked about places where we're gonna place it. Because again, it is 2 to 3 people that'll have to handle, you know, how they put in the videos, another 1 or 2 people that are actually taking video, and then the standalone camera. So it's a lot of things that go with it. It does also include the 24-second clocks that go on the side. You know, those will also be used for different purposes as well. Again, it includes the sound, removing the old building. So where we would like to put it is where the current existing one is, but actually outside of the track. And that's to protect the track and the turf. Because whenever they have to do maintenance on this, you know, you have to bring, you know, pretty heavy boom that, you know, these things are pretty heavy. We don't want it to damage the track that we just got.
So at this point, we're not approving the scoreboard, we're just asking you to approve that we could go out for proposals.
Yes.
I think
Is it
Ruben
gonna be
already
like,
did.
so you're placing it further away from, where it was?
Yeah, further away, yes, and now remember that, when I talked to them, if we look at a lot of stadiums, the scoreboard is actually outside of the track, so it would be right behind the track. As soon as where the track is, it would be right there, right in the center, and when you look at a lot of other stadiums, that's how it's placed, right outside the track. And the reason is, again, for the maintenance of it, of course, compared to the one that we have, again, this one is 36 feet wide, so there should be no problem to be able to see it. And then of course the bottom ones, the bottom advertising is digital. Those are 5 spots. Those would be digital. That can also be converted into one long ribbon for messages or things like that. The top ones, the 4 top advertising, those are permanent fixtures. Those would light up just at night. So those are 24/7 advertising. But those would not.
Well, he made the motion.
You already had the
Yeah,
motion.
he already has.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea, we're off, you know, I like the fact that, yeah, I think it's, we're off the expressway as well, and I was
Right.
concerned
Yeah,
about
it's
how
prime
close,
real
because I know
estate
we
for
have
us to
competitors
have.
on the other side, have their big, you know, big billboards already up, and I think this is great, I think I love it.
So Mr. Zambrano has moved and Mrs. Martinez has seconded to approve to request proposal for the Lions Stadium scoreboard. Any further discussion? All
I
in
like
favor?
this picture better.
I'm sorry?
My discussion, I like this picture better.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The next item is discussion and consideration to approve vendor Library Interiors of Texas for library enhancement at 6 campuses.
Yes, so good evening again, board. A couple board meetings back, about a month or two ago, we came to request permission to go out for proposals for the remodeling or the enhancement of all of our campus libraries. When we submitted that, when we put that bid out, or that proposal out, unfortunately, we didn't get any bids. I think a main reason for that is because of the spec that we had. It was a little bit of everything. It was not just remodeling, it was also technology influence. So I think a lot of these companies probably can only offer one thing instead of both. And then, of course, Mr. Flores was able to talk to this company, Library Interiors of Texas. They are part of a co-op or buy board. So they do actually specialize in, now I can call it remodeling. Because, let me go back. So I did ask TA for pre-approval on this because we do plan to use ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 funds. So I did ask prior approval from TEA that we could do this. It does meet all the goals on the allowable activities, and they approved it. And so now we're asking the board that you approve this company, Library Interiors of Texas, that they completely, redo, re-enhance, and remodel all 6 campus libraries. And I think this is something that's been a long time coming. As Mr. Flores has a little bit more details on the designing of these. These will be designed specifically to each campus's culture and each campus's environment. It'll obviously enhance a little, they'll be called learning hubs, which it promotes or it brings up a little bit more of the technology aspect. And so I think
We'll
this
be
is just.
having makerspace, so it's the STEM, we'll also be having chess tables, which is the chess, so they're
Yeah.
completely different.
Now, having said that, again, like I mentioned earlier, because of the bid, because, some of these companies, are not able to they usually just concentrate on one, like, for example, a company could just do the construction part, but not the technology part, and I think that's what deterred them from, bidding. So this company will do all of it, however, they're the ones that will provide us the specs, so we'll still have to, buy, the technology, which is, the iPads, the computers, the laptops, but all that is still part of the $600,000, and that's an estimated cost, that would be the max, it could always come, at a lower cost.
Okay.
I'd
like to make a motion that we approve.
Okay, Mrs. Thompson?
I second.
Mrs. Johnson, I second the motion. It has been moved and seconded to approve the vendor Library Interiors of Texas for library enhancement at the 6 campuses. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Any district announcements?
Yes. December 15, we have our district Christmas luncheon from 11 to 1:30 p.m. at the Lee facility. Following that night in the evening, we'll have our Christmas band concert at the La Feria High School at 6 p.m. On the 17th of December, we'll have our Christmas parade starting at 6 p.m. On Main Street. And then, of course, we'll have our Christmas break starting December the 21st all the way through January 9th. However, staff returns back on the 4th of January.
Any questions, Dr. Ramos?
We have a junior high band concert also tomorrow.
It's tomorrow at 6:30.
When is the concert?
Tomorrow at 6:30, junior
Junior
high.
high.
Any other questions? Any other comments? If there is no further business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Mr. Zambrano has motioned, Mrs. Martinez has seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Very good. It is now 8:25 p.m. and this meeting is now adjourned.
Don't forget your name.
Oh, yeah.
If you're interested in the legislative, let me know so I can